everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Joseph. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Go ahead and introduce yourself and the name of your business.
My name is Joseph Nagle. I'm the head of corporate strategy at Pando Electric, and we make electric vehicle charging stations for apartments and condos.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Joseph, we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and jump in there and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I graduated way back in 2009 with a degree in journalism. Unfortunately, if you know anything about a little bit about that time period, the markets were in a pretty significant decline. Yeah. And journalism was also in a bit of a decline. So
Okay.
double whammy there. And I ended up working at a environmental services company, being a grant writer. I absolutely hated it.
Okay. Okay.
And so as I was toiling away, I realized that I needed something to change. And I had this journalism degree, and I really wanted to be a writer. And I decided to sell everything that I owned and move to Barcelona
Okay.
to do that dream. I stayed there for a year. I made a lot of amazing connections. I was a freelance writer. I did do that. But if you know anything about freelance writing, you also know it's not really a profitable business on some level. It's very, very hard to get ahead. Uh,
Yes, yes.
and so when I was there, I also have this big passion for technology. And there is a huge tech conference there called Mobile World.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to run into somebody in my day-to-day life who worked for Ford Motor Company, and I explained I really wanted to go. And he said, "Hey, great. If you can write me some pieces, I'll give you a free ticket." So that's what I did. And while I was there, I ran into a bunch of people at Nokia, the
Okay.
phone company, which at that time was still pretty huge. And they all convinced me to move to San Francisco after my time in Barcelona.
Hmm.
The last little bit of money I had, I moved here to San Francisco. And as luck would have it, an internship opened up at Nokia. And so at 26 years old, I took an internship just to get my foot in the door. And I really started hustling. And at that time, the tech world was in a pretty big change from the mobile side. Nokia was in decline. Microsoft was looking to kind of shore up its mobile side. And so they acquired the devices and services from Nokia. And I was one of a handful of people to be rolled completely into Microsoft. About 10,000 people were let go, and about 100 of
Hmm.
us stayed. Like, that's the difference of how many people were actually there at the end. We worked on a product called Develop. It was really cool. It was a gamified application development platform. Basically trained people how to make Windows Phone apps through games.
Okay.
And we got to design all these different games and challenges. And, it was one of the most fun jobs I ever had. And we basically ran it like a carnival or an arcade where you complete these challenges and you get points and you could exchange them for Microsoft goods and services. And people absolutely loved it. Microsoft did not love it. And it was also indicative of kind of the shift in Microsoft. And I could see
Yeah.
the winds of change there. And I
Mhm.
wasn't really loving the corporate life anymore. And I really just wanted to go see what this whole startup life was about. I lived in San Francisco, so why not poke my head out and see what's available? I ended up just randomly running into a couple of guys, Kyle Lyons and Jason Applebaum. They are the original founders of a company called EverCharge. We started chatting about, what I wanted to do and what I was good at, which was mostly marketing work at that time. And so, a couple of weeks later, they're like, "Hey, you should come join us in our garage out in West Oakland." And that's what I did for the next 5 years. I, took the train out to West Oakland to our garage. It was me and the two founders. And then as time went on, we slowly grew. And we made same thing, electric vehicle charging stations for apartments. We didn't solve that problem, obviously, because I'm still doing this, trying to solve this problem today.
Mhm.
What we ended up doing was we found out that our solution for apartments actually worked great for fleets. And so we pivoted to the fleet management side of things, and it really went gangbusters. We like grew so fast, so quickly. I ended up getting super burned out from that actually. I took a step back and took an advisory role and went back to the mobile tech side of things in a Samsung job and more or less fairly easy, steady corporate life, and just offered my services as a strategic advisor around marketing strategies for the company up until it was acquired in 2022. So
Okay.
during that time, they ended up getting acquired. Because I was a strategic advisor, I didn't have a contract or anything with the company. So I was now free and clear to kind of go pursue other things. And I had kind of, again, once again, kind of burned out on the corporate life, and I wanted to go back into, vehicle charging because I still want to solve this problem for apartment owners and renters, be able to get EV charging affordably in their homes. And so I joined another company at the very early stage. Again, just sort of met someone who had a startup very early days at Orange Charger. We worked together for about 2 years, building up that company. At around the time that they got their seed round, things between me and the founder were just, they weren't working very well. We were not seeing eye to eye on the growth and the future trajectory of the business. We weren't really seeing eye to eye on a whole lot, actually. And, that happens a lot. So it's always good to know like when time to bail out, or to just say, hey, this isn't working. Like, you go your way, I'll go my way, and we'll call it a day. That's what happened. And then in that time, I ended up again stumbling into Pando Electric, and I didn't want to get back into electric vehicle charging. I had kind of felt like I'm not going to be the one who's able to solve this issue. Somebody else will have to pick up and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to find Pando, and the light bulb went off in my head when I saw the product that we sell. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what every person for the last 10 years has been telling me that they want. They couldn't articulate it correctly, but this is what they wanted. And so I started to dig more deeply into it. And eventually Aaron Lee, our founder, offered me a role. And so now I'm the head of corporate strategy here at Pando Electric. And we really are like making huge leaps in this industry. We've found a way to drive costs down tremendously, versus like even an EverCharge, my first company. We are 70% less expensive than an EverCharge system.
Mm-hmm.
We have no ongoing maintenance costs. EverCharge had to replace cables every 1 to 3 years on average. That was getting like very, very expensive for the company to keep doing. Pando doesn't have that problem. And it's because we use a smart charging outlet rather than a traditional system. And by doing that, there's a whole bunch of really interesting things you're able to do, like daisy chaining. You can use adaptive load management to really balance out the load. And then, of course, because there's no cable, the property owner's not on the hook for anything that's breaking. And I tell people all the time, how often do you actually maintain an outlet now? Answer is pretty much never. So
Never.
that's
Yeah.
really like the secret sauce of what Pando Electric is doing.
Okay, well, that's a good deal. I definitely appreciate you going into that portion of it. We're going to dive deeper into Pando Electric, and we're going to get even more of the bones about it. But I want to jump back a big step of what you shared a little bit earlier about your journalism. Now, as you are getting ready for school or in school, you chose journalism. As you were coming up, what made you choose that? Were you just on the yearbook club, or you were just on-site reporter? What made you choose journalism?
Yeah, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's probably a trend that a lot of people face when they go into college.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually quite good at writing. And so that was really just where my natural path took me, was into more of a journalism side. I'm like, I might as well take the skills that I have that I know I'm good at and
Mm-hmm.
try to maximize them. And that would make me a more valuable asset out into the working world. That's
Okay.
pretty much why. And then I always felt, the fourth estate is a pivotal institution in the United States. It's something that's, needed. And it also is requiring like a certain type of personality type, which I found out later is not me.
Okay.
I like writing, but I certainly don't like reporting.
Okay. Okay. I was just checking to see because that's an interesting one because you got to dig into folks. You got to go uncover stuff. You could have to go to a war zone to get your reporting done. That's why I was asking what was going on while you were making that decision. So we are building a good foundation about who Joseph is. Now, you were sharing that portion didn't work out with the grant writing. You went into corporate. You got with the startups. Now we're at Pando, right? Right before you decided to go with Pando, you were with the company, but what event happened that made you burn the ship and say, I'm going to go all in on Pando, although it's a startup? Did you have one particular thing that happened that said, you know what, I'm out of here and I'm going to go on to the next thing? What was that?
Well, honestly, I first of all, I have to say, I love the name of the podcast. It's like one of my favorite things, like
Thanks.
Cortez, burning ships and everything like that. It isn't necessary.
Absolutely.
Like, the reason for the burning the ships and joining Pando was the same reason I burned the ships and joined Evercharge, and the same reason I burned the ships and moved to Spain, right? When things weren't working, it's not, I'm not the type of personality who's going to just double down on things that aren't working. It's like, this clearly doesn't work and things need to change. And sometimes, you put in the work to see like, what can I do? Like, is there a side shift I can make and just like move into something adjacent, maybe taking a different role in this company? Or is it, like, I'm going to have to just blow this whole thing up and start from scratch all over again. And I think for a lot of people, it's really scary to do because it does it even now, right? I still feel it like, oh man, I'm going to have to like really rip this all up and start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like a Lego set, right? Once you tear it down, the possibilities of what you can build with all this stuff is kind of endless. And so I've known that for a while. I've known it from back when I jumped ship and joined Evercharge, because that had been like the single most pivotal career move I could have made at that time. I was making a very good salary and a very cushy job at Microsoft, and I went to a very unsure position at Evercharge.
Mm-hmm.
But the risk does always pay out at the end. I think if you really want to put your skills to the test, join a startup. I think that's the best thing you could possibly do.
Awesome. Awesome. Definitely appreciate you giving us that foundation. And now I want you to continue with the framework of Pando and, dig a little bit deeper into what makes you guys different, what you're doing, who you're looking to get in front of, who would be considered a good referral partner. So just go ahead and tell us all about Pando and what we can keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I mean, we were designed specifically to solve this problem of electric vehicle charging at apartments specifically. And the reason that's a big problem is a lot of times, a lot of the companies in this space, they only look at the EV driver, and that's only one of the factors you need to take into account. There's another factor of the community at large, and then there's a third, and honestly, the most important, the property owner, who's never going to use that station, or it's unlikely they're going to use that station on an even regular basis, probably almost never, especially on like the larger portfolio sides for as well. So not only does this product need to be useful to the EV driver and the resident, but it also has to be profitable or less expensive or be able to attract more residents for that property owner. And that's where Pando Electric sort of had to come up with the new device that we have. So we had to kind of start from scratch and look at what's not working with the traditional systems. Why are these failing? Number one, found out straight out of the gate, it's costs, right? The upfront costs of a single charging station are going to cost you between $4,000 and $6,000 on a good day. And that's if your property's more or less ideal for that. It can go as high as $20,000. I've seen quotes, I kid you not, quotes for $500,000 for a handful of stations, like two or three stations. And this is because, this is mostly just because the properties in which we're trying to put these chargers in just don't have the power capacity to do that. A lot of people don't understand this, but you can't just keep adding more and more electronics to a property. Like, power is not endless, it is finite. And so because of that fact, if you need to bring in more electrical services that the building needs to upgrade their access to that energy, that's really, really expensive, right? And so a lot of, especially out here in the Bay Area, a lot of the properties, when they would go to our local utility, PG&E, to actually get that upgrade, PG&E would say, no, because
Okay.
they've got their own problems that they have to deal with. So you have to use the electricity that's there intelligently. So that's problem number two. So what we're trying to do now is like solve this problem of cost and solve this problem of power capacity issues. And this came down to a very simple solution, which is we'll just use a plug. We'll just use a simple outlet. We'll use the outlet, we'll daisy chain them together, and we'll put in a power management system that's balancing out the load so that it never exceeds capacity. And by doing that, we drove down the costs between 50 and 70% depending on the site. Each site's always different, so you can't really get like a good quote. That's another issue, but no one
Mm,
solved that, and I don't think anybody ever will.
right.
So when you do that, you drive down the cost. So it's from an upfront cost perspective, from a portfolio manager or property owner, they look at that and they say, great, you've just saved me, tens of thousands of dollars on this amenity that I need to attract new residents. But then there's this other problem, which is the ongoing maintenance. And I'm sure people who are involved in the EV space, even tangentially, are looking at, well, yeah, this is maintenance issue or theft issue that's really making it even worse. And it's because of the cable. So people steal those cables because there's copper in them, and they break because people don't really take great care of them, or they just are forgetful or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at average charge, like I said, every 1 to 3 years, that cable broke. That cable is going to cost you between $200 and $300 just to get a new cable. It's going to cost you between $200 and $300 just to get an electrician to come out on site. And that electrician, because it's such a low level kind of thing, likely is not going to come out for 2 to 4 weeks. So you're
I
looking at
gotcha.
something that, like, imagine if you can't use your gas station for between 2 and 4 weeks, right? That's going to drive you a little bit nutty, and it's going to be tons of anxiety. Like, how am I going to get to work? Like, this gas station's always closed. And
That's
so then
right.
you have to go out into the world and try to find some public station or something else. And so it's not only causing a problem for the EV driver, but also the property owner because they're starting to get all the complaints. Why isn't this fixed? I need to use it. And that's one of the things that they don't want. The thing that a property manager wants the most of is silence. They want everybody in that building to be happy and content and just pay the rent and not have any problems, because the more problems they have to take care of means the more money is probably coming out of their pocket. And so
Yes.
again, by going with that socket system, the plug, you don't have any maintenance. You don't have to really maintain outlets. They just kind of work. You come in, you plug in, they work, and you leave, and that's basically it. And so we designed it then to be like the most robust socket you could ever imagine. We designed
Mm-hmm.
it to last for over 40 years under constant usage. So when somebody buys our product, they will have the peace of mind knowing that not only is there very, very little maintenance cost over 40 years, but it's going to last that long. You don't have to rip this thing out and put something else new in. Like, it's going to be there probably for the next 40 years, no problem. And then on top of everything else, you want to be able, the last problem they need to solve is that these chargers are commonly hooked up to common area power, which means that it's not going back to your, apartment or my apartment for the bill. It's going on to the property owner's bill. That's
Mm-hmm.
a big, big problem. So, an average EV can use up to like $1,200 of energy a year. So you can imagine, if you have, tens or even hundreds of these things in your parking lot, that could be a huge expense to the property. So what you need to have is a built-in metering capability into the charging station to accurately track all the energy that's passing through it, and then be able to bill the resident and reimburse the property so that they're not out of any of that costs. And once again, Pando Electric has also solved that problem. We're one of the few manufacturers who are actually CTEP certified, which is a certification by, the CDFA here in California that also regulates gas pumps. So it's
Okay.
basically saying that we can accurately track up to the fourth decimal place of kilowatt hour to bill, which is
Okay.
something that not a lot of people can claim right now, and that's another really big benefit to the property owners.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing the details about the business and how you're out here trying to serve them. Geographically, where are you targeting? I know you're out there in California. Are you just focused out there on the West Coast, or are you all over the country? Tell us a little bit about where you're trying to set up these stations.
We are all over the country. I mean, we have installs all in most states. The thing is that people will look at our portfolio and be like, yeah, but it's really heavily focused in California. And I would say there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
California is home to 50% of all the electric vehicles in the United States. So,
Okay.
you can actually look more than 50% of our installs are out here too.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, well, that's a good deal. Now, as you are trying to build it, and we always talk about referral partners, going through, the first EV company and now this one, who has been great referral partners that send you over opportunities to meet these apartments?
That's a great question. Really, the ones that work the best are where we're both going after the same customer, but we offer different products and services. So a great example right now is a solar provider. The solar provider will go in and say, "Hey, I can put solar panels on your roof. It'll lower your energy costs." And then always comes up is like, "Hey, do you need like an EV charging station or something else to kind of go with this thing?" Because EVs pair really well with solar. Because solar is going to be generated during the day. Unfortunately, the biggest problem with solar is that because the energy is generated during the day, it's also the lowest energy usage time. So you want to have a way to be able to store that energy and use it for later. And EVs are a perfect use for that because essentially they're just mobile battery packs. So that's commonly our best referral partner today is like a solar provider, who's someone who could, basically sell something similar-ish or similar to a similar market, and then we can go in and kind of do a you pat my back, I'll pat yours kind of thing, where if I go in and offer solar, I give them to you, and vice versa.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now, you're doing a great job of laying the foundation of your journey, some of those businesses that you've been through, and you shared a lot about Pando. And I know through those times you have acquired and nurtured different business skills. Do you mind thinking and then sharing with the entrepreneurs that are watching today some of those business skills that have helped you in business that can possibly help them as they're trying to grow?
I think the biggest one, honestly, is networking. That is like the superpower I feel like I have now. You can, if you can go into a room and be able to know that you're going to meet at least 2 or 3 people that are going to be able to help you, that's really, really powerful. And so just being able to like find networks, it doesn't even have to be into the same space. Like I participate in, social clubs. I participate in like investment groups, venture capital stuff. Like, so I have a lot of different groups that I just go and meet people at. And I have never gone to one single event where I haven't met at least one person who we can actually like exchange help with each other. And I think that's just kind of like the biggest thing that any entrepreneur is really going to need is the fact that going it alone is going to be really, really, really difficult. You're going to want to have help. And the best people who can help you are the ones who are going to offer it up for free. And you're definitely going to get that like in a networking event or something like that.
Okay, excellent. Those are definitely wise words. I say it all the time. If you grow your network, you will grow your net worth. So I really do believe that is 100% fact because, with us in our industry, we'll just receive referrals from people that we've built relationships with years and years ago because we were good to them. They remembered us. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Now, we understand that you have that grant writing experience and, you got that technical skills. And let's just say that you at Pando have put all the EV stations at all of the apartment complexes, and now money and time is not an issue. What is it that Joseph would do with his time now that he had more of it?
Yeah, so obviously I would travel. I mean, I love traveling. I typically go on 2 or 3 like international trips every year. I just want to learn more about the world and its people and their cultures. I love to write as well. I just do that as a hobby of mine. I've never stopped doing that since college. So I keep a journal. I have like a few different blogs under different pen names actually.
Okay.
Yeah, just to make sure I don't harm the business with some of my opinions. But yeah, and then I think the biggest one is I really do want to get more into like helping entrepreneurs. So I've started to like do some mentorships for people who are just getting started on their journey and just offering any expertise or advice that I can that'll help make that path just a little bit easier for them than the one that I had to travel.
Okay, a couple questions on that. Now, I know you're traveling pretty regularly. What is that next destination that Joseph has on his calendar?
Oof. Man, we only went to Tokyo for 1 week, and I felt like you could spend 100 years there and not walk down the same street twice.
Hmm.
And so I really want to go back and just, I mean, I want to go out. Number one, I want to go to Kyoto and just see, more of a traditional historic Japan, but also just spend more time in Tokyo and just get to know that place a little bit better. It was really quite an amazing place to be.
Okay. Okay. And with all of the journaling and just the free writing, the blogs, when are you going to write that book? When's that book coming out?
Probably never.
Oh,
I am not a long form writer at
yeah,
all. I have ADD,
I
so
guess.
I can't stick with something that long before I'm like, I get bored with it. I'm like, so I've tried. I think I've gotten the most I've ever written was I wrote a screenplay in college, and that was
Okay.
about 100 pages. So that's my max.
I got you. I got you. Well, we definitely appreciate you peeling back some of those layers of the onion and sharing with us about your experiences, your business, and definitely about Pando. I appreciate you sharing that. And my next thing is I want the people that are watching, if they're interested in learning more about Pando Electric or some of the things that you said today, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
There's two ways. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Joseph Nagle at Pando Electric. You search for me and you'll find me there. Happy to connect with anybody and everyone. Otherwise, if you have any specific business inquiries, you can contact me at joseph.nagle@pandoelectric.com.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And as we get towards the end here, again, we're truly appreciative of you telling us all about, your journey. I know sometimes it can be difficult to share some of these things while we're on camera, and we truly do appreciate that. And to honor that, we want to give you the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
I have a quote that I have kind of lived my life by. It's attributed to Abraham Lincoln, but I don't actually know if he said it. So the quote is this: whatever you are, be a good one. And I think that really translates back to my time in college where I chose, journalism because I was a strong writer and I wanted to maximize that skill set. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, you might not have all the skills that you need. I don't think anybody does. It's about taking the skills that you have and dialing them up to 11 and then finding the people that you can kind of, bring in that fills in the gaps for you. But whatever you are, you need to know that and be as good as you can be at that. And I think that quote really did resonate with me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Joseph. We truly do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Of course, of course. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.